Hello and welcome to Claret Brew. This is our weekly podcast show where myself, John Townley and Matt Kendrick all get together for 30 minutes or so to discuss whatever Aston Villa topic we choose. Today's topic comes from the mailbag in a roundabout way. We had the Q&A go out yesterday on Monday where we spoke about lots of different things. So if you haven't caught that yet, do go back and get it. But we didn't really, John, discuss Ollie Watkins or goal scoring or lack thereof. We didn't really talk about forward options too much besides Leon Bailey, potentially.
No, not really. I think it's probably worth a wider conversation and a wider conversation with Matt Kendrick.
Yes, exactly. So we had, 12 questions on that episode. There were another 7 that were just about Ollie Watkins and goal scoring and creativity that I felt to put those in the Q&A, it would override it, so we could do a whole episode on this. So rather than do these as questions and answers, I'm going to read all of these comments and kind of then just open the floor. Are you all right, Matt, by the way? Good morning.
I'm all right, yeah. I'm fearing my lips are going to go missing again. The sun's just arrived right in my eyelid. So I am here, I'm concentrating. I'm just trying not to squint too much, but yeah, carry on.
It's Claret Brew at the detriment of daylight savings time, whatever it is, that now it's brighter earlier in the morning where you're screwed a little bit.
What it is, but I've got a big shiny head, haven't I? Anyway, carry on.
Okay, carry on. Okay, here's all the comments then that I've picked out. We've clearly dipped a level following injuries, but isn't this spell more or less what the data nerds predicted? The run of wins we had was extraordinary given the performances, but the individuals have not been stepping up to rescue middling performances, and the bangers have dried up. The signs have been there all season, I think. Sitting in the lower Doug Ellis, we often wonder why we don't try quick balls over the top to Ollie Watkins. He makes countless runs, but not many balls over are tried. No wonder he is frustrated and out of form. It doesn't show on TV, but watching live, you can see how much he tries. I know Unai Emery has a system, and obviously he has a lot of loyalty to Watkins, which I understand. So, with the amount of injuries, do you think it's about time we consider going 2 up top in Tammy and Watkins? I don't know if it was just me, but when they were both on the field, that's when we looked at our best. Ollie looks done. He's working hard, but we're not seeing the best of him. I think Tammy is a natural goal scorer, and given our current injury crisis, we can't open teams up like we were at the end of last year. So we need someone who's going to take the opportunities when we get them. Tammy's put the ball in the net 3 times. One was chalked off on his debut in roughly 200 minutes. We need this kind of striker. We know that Ollie Watkins is finished at this top level. However, the disrespect he gets is totally unacceptable. Real fans need to understand that without this man, we wouldn't have achieved any of the heights under Emery that we did. In my books, he's a Villa legend. After all, he's our top scorer. Even if you don't like him now, please respect him. I'm not saying the football is the same as under Steven Gerrard, because it's obviously better. However, are we playing under the same mantra of waiting for a moment of magic because we're not creating very much? And finally, can we please stop the slander of Ollie Watkins? I don't think there's any other team in the league who slates their record goal scorer as much as us. I thought he played okay during the Leeds match and maybe should have scored. However, I've seen some people say how dreadful he is and demanding for him to come out of the team. In my opinion, we need to have more backing of our number 11, especially knowing he is a confidence player. Now, that's the kind of why we're doing this episode, and I am fully aware and expecting these guys are the Ollie Watkins fan club. They'll just defend him. Ollie Watkins propaganda, blah, 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 blah. This is a conversation for us to look at all sides of the story. None of us are going to sit here and say he's having a great season, because he isn't.
Overall, it gives a good balance. I absolutely agree with the comments about we criticise our record score probably more than any other club. I do believe that, and it's not as if this was 10 years ago. He still plays for us and still is our starting striker. I'll be one of the first to admit, and I think so would Ollie, to be fair, that his level hasn't been as good this season. But as we're going to try and explain in this video, there are different reasons for that. I think if we were creating more chances or had the players to create the chances behind him, he'd probably have 2 or 3 more goals at least. At the moment, he has 8, which isn't a terrible record, but you want at least 5 of him, really, 5 more from him, really, don't you, in the last, 11 games of the season are we in now? So for that reason, he's going to have to show probably his best form of the campaign in the next, or the last, 3 months of the season. There has been a drop-off for Ollie Watkins, but I would also add that we did a video previously, didn't we, about the knee injury that he's been sort of managing and dealing with. I don't have any sort of information or an update on what that's been like in the last 2 months, but that is still relevant, or was relevant at the start of the season as well. So there's lots of different factors. It's not just that Ollie Watkins is finished, as some people have said. I don't believe that. No, he's not playing at his best form, but equally at the age of 30 now, he hasn't lost that in the space of 6 months or something. And not for me. I just think this is a season where it's leveled out a bit for him. He scored 19 goals and 16 goals, now has 8. If he can get back into double figures, I think we could probably rule this as a, maybe a disappointing season for Ollie. But who knows what happens next season if he stays at the club. So yeah, for me, I think he does get a lot of unwarranted criticism, but equally at the same time, we can all agree that he's underperformed against what we expect from him.
I think, just to pick up a choice of wording, I think he gets warranted criticism, but unwarranted abuse, I would say. I think some of it is way over the top.
I agree with, I certainly agree with the abuse. I think a lot of players get abuse when they probably don't deserve it, but especially Ollie Watkins, I think he's a bit of a scapegoat sometimes. But when I say unwarranted criticism, I say that sometimes because, yeah, he might miss a chance or two. So does every other player. But it's when we don't create many for him, I think we hold Watkins to such a high level that when he doesn't hit those targets of scoring once in every other game, essentially, I think that's, we do get on his back quite a lot and we expect so much from him. And I think sometimes that can be a bit unfair because a lot of people will say, oh, we need to improve here, we need to improve there. But then we still, again, hold him to 20 goals a season or something. And I'm not totally sure that's fair sometimes.
I think when we talk about, I don't know, levels of disrespect and stuff like that, I think a lot of this is what's swirling around in social media. I don't think actually on match day too much disrespect comes his way, but neither do I think enough love comes his way. Listen, Tammy's the new exciting new signing, even though we've got a kind of pre-existing love affair with him. So I can understand, especially when he's on the bench, while there's a lot of love for him, his name being chanted and stuff. I wonder what it must feel like if you're Ollie Watkins when you're on the pitch when that happens. I'm not saying don't chant Tammy Abraham's name. I'm just saying perhaps chant Ollie Watkins' name a little bit more. That probably comes back to me not starting chants in the Trinity Road. So I think the way you phrased it, Dan, was good in a sense that nobody's above criticism. Even our Lord and Master Unai Emery's not above criticism. Watkins hasn't been hitting the levels that we've expected of him. So we can reasonably ask the question, should he be starting in the team? Is there anything different we can do? Is it a question of his performance in isolation? Is it a question of the team performance and him not getting the service that he would need? So I think we absolutely can have the conversation about whether he's good enough and whether he should start or whether Abraham should replace him. But I just think that I can't remember, they blended into one, all those comments that you read out, but somebody was saying he's earned legendary status by virtue of being our Premier League top goal scorer. He's been with us all the way since the early days of the Premier League. So I do think perhaps even if we do start to think that he's on the wane, that we should be a little bit more sympathetic rather than saying get him out and get him gone. We should be celebrating what a pivotal player he's been for us. And I don't know, maybe that's the modern world that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think football works like that way anymore.
Yeah, somebody who's doing the business, great. Somebody who's no longer of use to us, forget about it. And I don't know, I'm not really comfortable with that narrative because I think even if we do think that we've found an upgrade or that we need to find an upgrade, this guy's been, really good for us. And even this season, which, I'm sure by his own admission wouldn't be the levels that he'd want to be at, especially with the World Cup on the horizon. There's not that many. Probably looked on a top scorer list, and there are several people who are above
seven, but it's 7 strikers.
Yeah, there's not that many centre forwards, is there?
Yeah, like 7. Where would Ollie Watkins rank in centre forwards in the Premier League? I don't know. Some people would probably put him 5th, should we say? Well, there's 7 more strikers who've scored more than him. If he scores a goal against Wolves, or maybe 2, or in the next 2 weeks, he probably moves into 6th or something in terms of the highest scorers. Like, it's about right, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, we've said before that, and this is where like the, Ollie Watkins fan club comes from, that, he's a streaky player and he's a confidence player and all that. And that has been true in the seasons before this one. He scored against, was it Fulham? Was that this season, John?
Yeah.
We must have going back into last year, Fulham, and then didn't go on to kind of start a streak off the back of that. And all we were saying was, get him a goal, he'll get some confidence, and he'll go on a run. That is the Ollie Watkins that we know. And that is the Ollie Watkins that we saw before this season. He goes on these streaks. You're saying, 11 games to go. If he gets another 5 or 6, he'll have, 12, 14 for the season. That's about par for an okay Ollie Watkins season. But that requires him now going on a run of pretty much 1 in 2. He hasn't shown that streaky side this season. He might score a couple and then go on another couple of months without nothing. He might score another 3 or 4. Obviously, as we always say, football is an unknown. Maybe he scores 10, right? And we all go, actually, he turned a corner, he scored a goal a game. Amazing. That doesn't look likely and doesn't even look possible at the moment. And some of that will be down to chance creation, which I know, John, you've got some numbers that we'll go into in a second. But even in himself, he doesn't seem to have that confidence or that bit of quality or that finishing touch or the first touch or the finish to actually kind of go and score 6-7 goals.
Yeah, my biggest concern, because I actually think this is sort of a scoring goals for Ollie Watkins is almost a byproduct of him being involved, is the way I see it, because he does miss chances, and so do other players. So Haaland, Igor Thiago, Calvert-Lewin and Ekitike and Watkins are all in the top 10 for most missed chances this season. Of course, Watkins isn't in the top 10 for goal scorers, but it just sort of paints the picture of, good players can miss chances. Yeah. And more often than not, it's if you are going to be given lots of chances, you will be in the top, among the top scorers and also among the big chance misses. So last season, Watkins missed 27 big chances, but still scored 16, which I think everybody would take, really. In any season, you strike scoring 16 goals, however that looks. But the biggest concern for me is that I don't think he's very involved in our play this season. So, is a guess how many assists Ollie's got this season in the league? Which, 3. In fact, it might even be all competitions. So, Dan 3, Matt
4,
1. He has 1 assist.
1, wow.
Yeah, which is a huge drop off from.
What goals? 20... Do you remember?
Oh, you've done me there. No, you've done me there. I don't remember.
I'll have a look.
This was, back in 23-24, he had 13 assists, didn't he, and won the Playmaker award, didn't he, for the Premier League, most assists.
And then silver boots, was it?
I don't know, something like that. And then 8 assists last season, which was a bit lower than 13, obviously, but still relatively high for a striker. But in this season, to only have 1 assist, that for me is the most alarming point of all of this. And we know that in games matches can pass Ollie by. But if anything, I think that almost, why is that only 1 assist? And I don't have all the numbers to suggest why. I haven't dug into this too much, but that's alarming for me. And yeah, the goal scoring is down, but just his overall involvement in games, I think the fact he's only got 1 assist, as I say, I think that proves a lot of what we're seeing, really. I don't think he is getting too much of the ball in the right area, should we say. I don't know whether it's decision making as well, but yeah, I don't know. This doesn't feel at the moment like we are playing to his strengths.
The assist was for Rodgers in the win against Man United.
Oh, actually, I do remember. Actually, it was a good assist. He goes across the man at the front post. Yeah. So it's good movement from him,
Yeah, nowhere near good enough, right? And that's the overarching point for, if you had to kind of summarise Ollie Watkins' season, whether he finishes on 13 goals or whatever, you'd still say not good enough, really. Generally, over the course of the season, his performances haven't been to the level. However, you do have to couple these things with the context of what Villa do then. Does he score the winner in the Europa League final? Does he score the goal that gets us into the top 4 of the game? We have to win there. You go to the Etihad and win the game, and Ollie Watkins is the goal scorer. All right, well, he had a crap season, but he scored the moment, right? This is why, slagging off players who currently still play for you is always difficult, because they can pop up with a moment that it becomes important. And I hope he still does that. And
he has as well, yeah.
But we're not seeing the signs that would be about to happen. We can't sit here now and go, oh, you know what, he scored at the weekend. This will hopefully be the start of him going to score another 8 goals. There's no evidence of that.
I think the difference now is, and maybe I'm nudging us along to this a bit too soon. The difference is now we have an alternative, and I'm not sure we have really since Duran went. an alternative who can play as a number 9. Marlon obviously has been and gone and made a contribution whenever he was used, but wasn't regarded by Unai Emery as a natural like-for-like replacement for Ollie Watkins. So this frustration, if you like, with Ollie Watkins has gone on probably for 2 or 3 years, as long as Ollie Watkins has missed chances.
Yeah.
But he's scored enough of those chances and big goals, winning goals. He's broken that record. It's gone away as soon as it's come along because, you know, you moan at him for missing a couple of chances in one game. Invariably, at least 2 or 3 games later, he'd have scored one or he'd have scored a brace or whatever. But now that clamour's grown even more because we've seen what Tammy Abraham can do. I'm a little bit 3 goals in how many minutes did the
200-ish.
3 goals in 200 minutes and 2 of them weren't legitimate. 1 goal in 200 minutes. You know what I mean? That's still not bad. That's still 1 goal in 2.
This is the other side of the argument, isn't it, that we spoke about on the Q&A, that, you know, the centre-back thing, when Mings is out the team and we don't play well, it's get Mings in there, big physical unit, good defender. When Torres is in the team, we don't play well. Get Torres in there, he's a brilliant footballer. Is this just going to be that, you know, what? And I don't like to think this way because hopefully if Tammy does start playing, he does score goals and we win games and everything's rosy. But what happens if Tammy plays the next 4 and doesn't score? And then it is a chance creation thing that the likes of Tielemans not in the team is actually a massive deal. Of course it is.
Yeah, Abraham won't get 4 games in a row, will he? I think he'll have to.
I wouldn't have thought so.
If he comes in for Wolves and starts, he'll have to play well to then keep his place because we know that Emery is, and rightly so, in my opinion, a huge fan of Watkins because of what he gives to the structure of the team. And we'll get into chance creation soon. A point I was going to make there was one that I've now forgotten.
That's good then.
Oh, what was it? Villa, if I'm correct, which there's a 50-50 chance. I don't think we've scored a goal from open play in the last 5 matches, right? So Mings, Tammy, set piece, and the goal at the weekend. So we haven't scored from open play in 5, which...
it's much like the first 5 games, isn't it? Is what we're seeing at the moment.
It's similar, yeah. I think there are comparisons to that, yeah.
But we're just not playing well as a team. We're not winning games because Ollie Watkins is missing 10 chances a game. We're just not playing well, full stop, and haven't seen since turn of the year.
I can't remember, and maybe again this is just me, but I can't remember too many opportunities for Watkins. There was obviously a good chance for him at the weekend where he takes it too quickly, snatches at it really, and again that's probably confidence more than anything. As I said, but
if that's his only chance in the game and he doesn't score it, it's highlighted more, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. And again, he should have scored it. He needs to do better. But also, we know that involving Watkins in passages of play and him being in the game more often, you're going to get a better Ollie Watkins, a more sharp Ollie Watkins, a more confident Ollie Watkins. So, yeah, only Forest and Wolves have scored fewer goals than Villa in the last 6 games in the Premier League. So it's a good thing we've only conceded 4 goals, which is the best. So keep it up.
It's a shame for Watkins in a sense because if this is this knee thing, you know, whatever, and I'm sure there'll be people in the comments saying, "Yeah, boo-hoo, if he's that injured, he wouldn't be playing," which to an extent I do agree with. But I thought he was going to have a tremendous season in pre-season. He looked sharp. It's a World Cup on the horizon. If he has a brilliant season where he scores, was it something like 24? He would have reached the 100 club. Like, not beyond the realms of possibility that if Villa are good, Ollie Watkins could get close to 20, and then, you know, that personal drive to go and just get a couple more to break that 100. That feels there's a fairy tale there, right?
Do we think that's impacting him?
Fast forward now. Well, I don't know. I was going to say, it's disappointing that he's not been able to use that fuel to go and do what I want and score 20-odd goals and get himself into the England team. But he'd be on the plane regardless. He's not had a great season, but he'll still go to the World Cup. He's just obviously not going to start and probably wouldn't have anyway, even if he has a kind of barnstorming season. So I don't know. Maybe it does play the other way. Maybe it is a pressure. I don't know.
Do we think that's guaranteed that he's going to go on the plane? I'm not totally sure now.
I don't know. I think he probably would. I mean, there's so few English strikers. Calvert-Lewin and Welbeck.
Calvert-Lewin's in good form. Welbeck can bring you experience, and who knows what Tammy will do in the next few weeks. I would take Ollie, and
I think he'd still go.
He's been in many of the squads, and obviously produced a key moment for us in the Euros. But I'm a little bit concerned for him now. But
I mean, the fact that that's even a possibility that he might not go behind Welbeck and Calvert-Lewin kind of prove the point that we're talking about here. He's not even been at that level.
I'd like to think that by now that he's played enough games in the Premier League, been under the glare enough, played for England, scored a big goal for England. Yeah. I'd like to think that the pressure of that, chasing that World Cup, he could deal with that. He's a rounded, fairly mature guy, but you don't know. You don't know what goes on with that, and it might be the case that, listen, he's clearly fit enough to play games, but it might be that he's subconsciously holding a little bit back, if you like, so that he doesn't sustain a big injury that's going to rule him out of this. I mean, how old is he? How old is he now, John? But 30, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So I'm not convinced he's got another World Cup in him.
No, possibly not.
It's a really big moment for him. The one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, and you've touched upon it recently, was about getting him more involved. The thing that frustrates me a lot about Ollie Watkins, and obviously chances come and chances go, but I don't think he looks after the ball well enough sometimes in possession. Yeah. Even when he's, listen, it's hard against, if you're playing alone for up front and you've got one defender or two defenders, keeping an eye on you, it's hard to win the ball in the first place. But on the occasion when he does win the ball, I think he does the hard thing, and then so many times he'll underhit a 5-yard pass, and it will have that dual frustration of breaking down our attacking move and then putting us on the back foot at the time where we set to attack. And it's little bits like that where I think, okay, even if you're going through a little bit of a crisis of confidence, a dip in form, you're creaking a little bit physically, the basic fundamentals are keeping the ball. That's what Emery ball is all about. So I think those are the things that annoy me more than anything else. And listen, there's other players who give the ball away, so I'm not just picking on him, but I do notice it with him that there's times where, because he's not protecting the ball well enough, that all of a sudden puts us on the back foot. And I think that infects the judgment of how we regard him. Is that fair? Or am I being a little bit cruel there?
No, I think that's fair, but it does obviously something that I think a lot of centre forwards you could probably criticise at points. Sort of related to that, but I don't know, unless you've got anything to say about it as well, Dan.
I've got, I don't know whether you both saw, but I was going to share it with the audience anyway, that Colin Moore's tweet about Watkins. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Matt didn't, so I'll read it anyway. He said, if you have a goal scorer and hyper-mobile and clever mover, you use them, and we aren't. Goalkeeper driving straight balls down his throat 10 times a game does nothing for a striker's confidence. What can he do? Flick it onto nobody? Control it with his neck? At least drop it into his chest or into a channel that he can run onto. Secondly, his short 10 to 15-yard runs are clever and dynamic, but last 15 minutes he's making runs with creators on the pitch with nobody finding him. Eventually, as a striker, you stop making the runs. But to be fair, Ollie hasn't. Hardest role in sport is scoring goals and line leading. He can do it, but right now he needs his goalkeeper and forwards around him to help him a little bit. If Leeds can utilise Calvert-Lewin properly, Villa can with Ollie. Rant over. This probably leads into a little bit of the kind of general chance creation, but it's chicken and the egg, is it? Is Ollie Watkins not playing well enough within himself that he's not good enough, or are the teammates around him not utilising him correctly? Probably both.
I think I think a large part of it is that we're not involving him enough, and I say that for pretty much the whole of the season. With respect to Leon Bailey and to Emi Buendia, and Buendia's had a fantastic season, don't get me wrong, but two players who Villa were more than happy to see the back of 12 months ago, if not less. They start against Leeds at the weekend. Rodgers has marked out the game. You don't have Tielemans, you don't have McGinn. Ollie Watkins, it's your fault. I just think sometimes we've got to look at elsewhere in the team as well. Ollie, over the course of 3 years, has proven that he can put the ball in the back of the net, be involved, get assists, be our man to look towards when we need him most. I just don't think we are giving him the right service throughout the season, not even just now. He needs to do his part as well. But as I said, I just think to get the best out of Ollie, you need to feed him and feed him well. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's kind of the same for every striker, but not every striker will make the movements that Ollie does, like Stan has pointed out there. Just one other thing that I wanted to quickly mention, because we're talking about Tammy now, maybe being involved from the start. Don't think that is such a bad thing for Watkins, and he won't like that, the fact that he's not starting games. But I can remember at least 2 matches this season where he's probably played his best football, and that was off the bench against Chelsea when he scores twice, off the bench against Spurs as well. It was back in November, October, when he helps turn the game around for Villa as well. As I turn around the game, I don't think we would have won the game without him on the pitch coming on and being a nuisance, making those runs, running against tired legs. It's almost like a bit of a for the last 20 minutes of a game, not like a free spirit, but it's like, Ollie, you go up there, just cause chaos, and he does.
Yeah.
And it's a problem for defenders, and it makes space for everyone else. So I'm not against that, and I don't think it would be the worst plan either. Again, not something that Ollie would want to do, I don't think, but hell, it's certainly something. Yeah, but also it might be what he needs. A couple of appearances off the bench to get himself back into form, maybe. So yeah, I think it's an option.
Have you got actual numbers, John, for that chance creation?
Yeah.
We'll probably do those 28 minutes into this.
I'm wait if you team me up, really.
Oh, sorry. All right, John, talk to me about chance creation.
Sure. So we're missing Youri Tielemans and John McGinn, which is a big problem. So this season, I'll just run you through some quick numbers for Tielemans. So Tielemans has the second most assists of any Villa player this season. That's 4. Second most chances created still at 26, even though he's missed the last, not loads of games, but he's been missing since Newcastle away. Big chances created as well. Second most in the Villa team. He leads the team for accurate long balls per 90, which is 2.8 per 90, which I thought was relevant as well, because that's switching the play, opening play up, maybe playing it into the channel for Watkins, etc. And then last season, Tielemans was first for big chances in the Villa team and first for chances created. He created 61 chances for Villa last season, 16 big chances. And as I say, so far this season, it's 26 chances, 4 big chances. But he is clearly one of our best creators alongside Morgan Rogers and John McGinn as well. He is our third biggest chance creator. So big chances 3, and he's created 24 chances himself. But what I thought was interesting is that sometimes we miss Kamara out of this, but I actually think early this season he was showing more that he can progress play with real quality. Quite a number of passes would go through to Watkins, again through the channels, making use of his runs, spotting those runs. So essentially, with that being said, so McGinn and Tielemans and Kamara, it's essentially 25% of Villa's chance creation is now gone. So this season, Villa have created 260 chances in the league across all of their games so far. Tielemans, McGinn and Kamara make up 65 of them. So it's 25% of the chances are no longer there. So you could make the argument that Ollie Watkins is now dealing with 25% less service. Sorry. So that's sort of the takeaway from that. And then in terms of big chances, Villa are 20% down from Tielemans, McGinn and Kamara.
And this is why it's no one individual's particular fault, because I've said before, I said yesterday on the Q&A that I still want the players who are there to step up, whoever is playing. I'm not expecting to be Youri Tielemans, but be Youri Tielemans light and contribute more. But if you're creating less chances and the ones that you do get go to a striker who is having a stinker, it's no surprise that Villa have dropped off from a creative point of view. The two things feed each other, don't they?
Yeah, I think, this would probably be the most boring show reel or highlights reel that anybody had ever seen. Although I did see one of Paul McGrath yesterday, and it was he did one neat back heel to clear the danger, but other than that, it was just kind of heading balls that you'd expect a centre half to head. But
you saying McGrath well, I good.
Overrated.
I'm not saying that for God's sake, but literally for God's sake. But
unpopular opinion.
Indeed, yeah. But I actually think a highlights reel, a show reel of the runs that Watkins makes that nobody finds him, would be quite telling and quite interesting.
It would bang.
To be honest, I don't know whether don't know who's got the.
We don't have the rights to do that.
No,
the probably copyright strike.
Although I have discovered a new artist, a new music artist that you could put over the back. You know, I discovered the fella. What was it? Bakar or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lad called Liam C now.
Okay.
I'd
love it if that was somebody like really fat. Like, I've just got Arctic Monkeys. This new band.
No. This one's on the start of his journey. I'm telling you. Okay. So yeah, check him out. All right. Where were we?
Where's that come from?
What was the point of that?
I just need to promote you, really. I was just waiting for any opportunity. What was the question?
I don't know. Can't remember. Oh, the highlights reel. Were you saying that would make good music for a highlights reel? Is that what?
That's the point I was making. I wasn't deliberately crowbarring that in for that point. I was saying a highlights reel of Ollie Watkins and the work that he does off the ball would be interesting and quite instructive, I think, for people to see. Listen, we still want him to be on the ball, scoring goals, creating goals. So I'm not saying that would excuse him. I'm not saying that would necessarily mean that he can, I don't know, resist the fact that Tammy's coming from his place necessarily. But I just think it would be really, really interesting.
Do you think that's one of those things that you could also do that for lots of other strikers as well, though?
Listen, I'm not trying to make money off the back of these newfangled highlights. You could probably do it for any footballer, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you show the same thing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, like probably lots of the other strikers are not being found by runs in games as well. But the ones that they do better with than Ollie Watkins has been doing with, because his first touch will be crap or whatever.
Possibly, you possibly need this to become an anthology rather than or a compilation rather than just one. I don't know, John. I don't know whether John would have the numbers at his fingertips. How many runs Watkins makes per 90 compared to his peers? I don't know.
I don't. To be fair, I wish I did. Just the point there that no, just what Dan mentioned there about Watkins' first touch might not be good enough and stuff like that. I don't know if you meant literally like he's not very good. I don't know, probably not. But I just think sometimes we are quite cynical because, again, we talk about how Watkins has been a crucial part of our success under Emery, and without him, we wouldn't be in the Champions League. We wouldn't have done as well as we have. He's by far contributed in terms of goals, assists more than anyone else. But we're saying that, actually, if those balls came off, maybe you wouldn't be able to control it. Maybe, I think it's, I don't say disrespectful, but we can't forget that he's still a good footballer. I just don't think we're using him in the right way or finding him anywhere near enough times either. So I haven't given up on Ollie Watkins at all. I just think we need to do more for him.
There was Emery, clearly.
Yeah, and that I think is probably the biggest indication of all. And I will say now, I'd rather Tammy start against Wolves, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't bet against Watkins coming off the bench and making a key contribution if needed either.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to play the other side of the argument.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah,
yes, he's contributed to us in the seasons gone by, but he hasn't enough this season. And I think that's compounded by the fact that there is now an actual alternative, as Matt said earlier. I think if that option wasn't there, we'd have no choice to persist with Watkins and just hope for the best. And like I said before, Tammy Abraham might not be the answer either. I really hope he is, because he has to be, but removing that sentimentality of what's come before it, Villa have got 11 games now in the league and, well, at least 2 in Europe, hopefully 7, to go and achieve something achieve something
popular,
achieve something that would be popular and proper. So whoever that is who gets us over the line, whoever's scoring the goals, whoever's assisting them, I don't care who it is. I just want Villa to do well.
How long's he got left on his contract, John? 2 years, Watkins.
Good question.
2028, I think.
Yeah, do you think he'll see out that contract at Villa?
I think he'll be gone in the summer.
Do you?
Yeah.
What's the going rate for Ollie Watkins now?
Last season, I think that was probably Villa's opportunity as such to cash in if they were going to on Ollie Watkins. And again, we was told not for sale, but that means not for sale at the price in which other teams are willing to pay. If 55 million came on the table, I'm sure he probably would have gone.
What did Arsenal offer? Was it about 40 or something?
Around, yeah, that was the sort of figure being mooted, yeah. But yeah, with what would that be now? 2 years left on his deal?
2 years left on his deal. Obviously, we'll see what happens in the remaining 11 games. Let's say he scores 12 goals, would be 30 and a half in the summer. I don't think anyone's paying more than 35 for him.
You got to look at what's the opportunity cost here for Villa to let go of him and bring in someone else. What are you going to get for Ollie Watkins that's worthwhile, and then replace him? I think we've done well to get Tammy for the price that we have. I don't know if Tammy is a player who can lead the line for Villa over 38 games in a league season, and then Watkins would be the player to come in, or vice versa. I don't know if it is strong enough. But at the same time, if you sell Ollie for, let's say, £25 million to a club, what you're going to bring in that's worth a similar amount of money that gives you the experience and know-how that Ollie does. I just think this season, we spoke about it earlier, we've had first 5 games of the season, we were woeful. We couldn't make many chances, let alone score goals. In the last 5 games, I don't think we've been woeful, but we haven't been that much better than where we were earlier in the season. Yeah. So that's 10 football matches, really, where Ollie Watkins has been in the team that have created very little at all. that's what, nearly a third of the season or so, right? You know, I think if you put this Ollie Watkins right now in the in the Villa team of 23-24 when he scored 19, he'd have more goals than what he does now, if that makes sense. Same for last season, he'd have more goals. This season, he has the amount of goals he has. I think mainly, again, because the team aren't creating many chances. I think it's, what did we expect here?
Matt, close us out because we've done well over half an hour. Just give me your summary on his value, his future, etc. You wrap us up.
I think there's the possibility now with Tammy Abraham in the team for us to take Watkins out the firing line when necessary and have a good, capable replacement in there. But I don't think it's either or. I don't think you suddenly relegate Ollie Watkins to the bench and then Tammy Abraham is your starting number 9, number 18, number 11, whatever these guys wear nowadays, forevermore. I think it's an option that I would take. I would take this Friday at Wolves because I think I think Tammy's champion at the bit, and I think Watkins probably would benefit from, like John says, being an impact sub for a couple of games. But I don't think it's the end of Ollie Watkins as we know him. Basically, I think we've seen, haven't we? When the squad creaks, we need everybody in that squad to be available, and it could be somebody who we don't expect that does, make a contribution that makes this season, not one of potential but one of success. So I don't know. People will probably be battering us in the comments saying, he's not good enough. We're Aston Villa. We competing for Champions League football. We want to win a European trophy. We've gone 30 years without winning a trophy. Why are you defending him? I'm defending him for a couple of reasons. One, yes, based on past glories, which people can't live off forever, but also based on there's not that many other players, certainly not English players, who are tearing it up. And I think sometimes we've got to look at things in a wider context, and we've got to support people through the difficult moments. Long-winded answer. I'm quite pleased that we've got 2 really good centre forwards now. The challenge for me is not just how do they impact, how do we set them up in the best possible way that they can do more damage at the top end of the pitch, because unless they're I can refer to this a lot, don't I? The MLS penalties running from the halfway line. Unless they're doing that themselves and given the opportunity to, they do need some support from the people in and around them and behind them.
Do you think this will be his last season for Villa? However that looks, whether that's Villa accepting big bid or he wants to move on or whatever it may be, but do you think it will be his last one?
I don't know. I think it's possibly going to be his last season as the main man, as somebody who can pretty much be sure to start most weeks. I think that might have changed, and then that creates several issues, doesn't it? That can Villa afford, to keep him on the bench? Even if they're going to sell him for a knockdown price, does that make financial sense? Does Watkins get frustrated at being no longer the main man? So I don't know. I probably expect to see him still involved again next season, to be honest. He's got 2 years left.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he'll get the same opportunities that he's had previously.
If he stays at Villa past this summer, and I'd like him to, I'd like Ollie to see out his career at Villa, to be honest. I don't think that will happen. But if he does stay, again, what would be the point in selling him at any point? Because what are you going to get from him with a year left on his deal? Not much at all when he's 31. So, do you know what I mean? I just feel like this summer is the point where you either sell him for money or just don't sell him at all and let him run down that deal, and then he can have a signing on bonus elsewhere if needed. And I know Villa are against it PSR wise, but again, if you keep Ollie for the summer and then next summer he goes for, let's say, 12, 15 million pounds, what's the point? Unless he's really come off the boil. But I don't know. It's maybe a conversation for later down the line this season.
I think we've played both sides of the argument, to be honest, of that he's not good enough and his touch isn't good and his finishing isn't good and blah, blah, blah. But also he is an Aston Villa player, at least for the remainder of the season, and will hopefully contribute something important, right? And needs that support.
Yeah, we need him to.
Yeah, we need Ollie Watkins to do something. So hopefully he does go on a little streak and scores 5 in 10 or whatever. But yeah, for me, I'm concerned about him more so than I probably have been before. Thanks both for joining me on this one, a bumper episode. I'm not going to edit this down to 30 minutes. I've got no chance. So hopefully people listening along enjoyed it as well. Share your comments as well, pro or anti-Watkins, whether it's as binary as that. I'm not sure it is. I think there is some balance to be found in the middle somewhere. John and I will be back for a live episode of a Q&A on Wednesday afternoon. So we'll see you then for that one.